Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to quickly review how you would draw a diagram and annotate it to show the formation of this feature, which is the drumlin. So the first thing you'd look to be doing in an exam and in your notes as well is to actually give this a title. So we are looking at the formation of a drumlin. Okay, right. So that's our title. Now we would want to do a diagram that is going to show this particular feature that we are looking at. So let's have a look at the actual feature itself as a real landscape feature. And what we can see about it is that it has a steep side and then a gently flowing side to the actual geographic feature. And it covers quite a few hundred meters on the landscape, 10 to 20 meters in height, although the size of drumlins can greatly vary across the landscape. As a cross-sectional diagram, we're looking to draw a diagram that looks something similar to this that we can see here. And because it's a feature formed by the melting of a glacier and glacial action, we're going to want to include that in our diagram. So let's just start by creating the landscape, or in this case, this would be the valley floor of our U-shaped valley, which is where many of these are located. Next key idea is we want to create the two sides of our landscape feature. So we've got the steep side and then the long, gentler side of our feature. And one of the key things we want to be able to do is start picking up marks straight away. So the steep side of this landscape feature is known as the Stoss slope. So this is the steep that's a key word you'd want to put into your answer. Stoss slope faces up the valley. And what that means is that the glacier would have been traveling in this direction, which I've just indicated by that arrow. Okay, so let's name the other part of our glacial feature, the gently sloping side. This is the gently sloping lee slope. And the Stoss slope faces up the valley, so it faces down the valley. So these are features that actually indicate the direction that the glacier moved through the valley. Right, how do we describe the actual feature itself? Well, it is what we might call an elongated hill. So elongated, just stretched out. That'd be another key word. Put that in and you pick up a mark for the description of the shape. And it is made up of sediment or glacial till of all different sizes and shapes, which is what I'm indicating here. So we want to indicate that for a mark too. So the feature comprises or is made up of, now the key idea here is unsorted. Talk more about that in a second. Glacial till. So glacial till is just all of the material which a glacier carries as it travels. And that material can be anything from boulders the sizes of a house to tiny small fragments of rock. When it melts, if it is unsorted, as I've indicated here in this description, that would suggest that the meltwater has not been sorting it. A sorted glacial feature is clearly created by meltwater sorting the rocks in terms of size. So generally speaking, if you have a lot of meltwater creating a glacial feature, then the smaller material will be moved further because it's lighter, and the larger, heavier material, in this case, the larger, heavier rocks, they would be left further upstream inside the glacier. And those are what we call sorted glacial features, and they're mainly created by meltwater. Now, we will be exploring a feature later on that is created through the sorting of glacial till, but the Drumlin is a feature that is made up of unsorted rocks. Okay, what other information can we add to our diagram? Well, this is where we want to now put in our glacier traveling, because our feature is being created underneath the glacier. So here is my glacier, and embedded in my glacier is this feature that would be forming towards the end of the lifetime of the Ice Age. Because what happens is, as glaciers begin to melt, all the material that there is in them begins to get closer and closer together, running out of space between it, and it's getting carried by the glacier. And the glacier actually starts to become what we would call overloaded with sediment. So we want to add that key idea to our diagram. I'm just going to make some space up here to add that. So we want to talk about this glacier being overloaded with material, which is part of the process that is required for the drumlin to form. So let's just add a little piece of information that glacier is becoming overloaded key idea, overloaded with sediment. Now, when anything is overloaded with something, when it's carrying too much, a river, for example, it'll start to drop some of that material, especially at the base, which is something we can see in this particular feature. And as the glacier is traveling in this direction, which I've indicated with an arrow, so we're going to put that direction of travel, it actually starts to travel over the drumlin. And as it hits one end, it starts to push it down and gives it this streamlined effect. Okay, so we want to add that idea into our diagram, which I'm just going to put in now. So we want to talk about the fact that the glacial deposits become streamlined as the glacier travels over it. So glacial deposits become streamlined as glacier travels over. Which is what gives it its distinct shape. Okay, now there are a range of theories about the formation of glaciers, and one of them, and there is evidence to support this, is that part of the process in the formation of the glacier is because on the valley floor, there is a large, embedded into the valley floor, rock or obstacle, which cannot be eroded away as the glacier traveled over it. And these act like rock cores around which the glacial material starts to gather. Okay, so we have a small obstacle on valley floor. Around which glacial till, so remember glacial till is all the material that's carried by the glacier, gathers. It almost acts a bit like a windbreak might act collecting stuff in the shelter. Now, not all drumlins have these features, these what we call rock cores, and therefore it is one of the many theories that actually exists around the formation of this feature. Okay, so a few other little things we can add just to build up some additional marks. These these features are often found in large clusters, so more than one of them. And they're called swarms. So in many U-shaped valleys, you'll find dozens of these all together in the valley floor, and that word gets called a swarm, sometimes known as a basket of eggs, because of the egg shape that these features actually have. Now, often the additional label you could add, and I'm not going to add it to the diagram, but you might choose to add it to one side, is that as the glacier moves forward and then retreats with the gradual seasonal changes in temperature, then these drumlins can often be reshaped by the continual ice movements after the actual hill has been originally formed on the valley floor. So they'll appear at the front end of the glacier as it starts to retreat in spring and summer, but then with the winter snow falls and the glacier starts to grow forward again, it will then pass back over the feature, and that gives a further pronounces the kind of the effect of the steep end up here and the gentler end as it flows over. So the key idea here is that drumlins can be continually reshaped by the movements of ice that occur during the changes in the extent of the glacier.